Hi guys, this is the second video that I said I wanted to do, and I'll be honest, it's short. It's going to be very short. And I thought about, how I've been trying to compile some, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll put it with another one into a video just so that there's two short ones in one video. But I'll be honest, I thought it just would be nice to do. So this one is actually the death of a child. So if you don't want to watch, that's fine. The other one will be up, and I will have another one up, next week as well. But I just didn't think I wanted to do that, where I was like putting it in with another one just for the sake of it. So I am sorry that it is short, but there's just not a lot on it. And that made me feel as well then kind of sad, because I was like, it was in one of the books that I have. And so I read it there, and then I went obviously Googling to find more, and I couldn't find a lot. I couldn't find many other sources to do with it. So yeah. On the 2nd of May 1974, in the Lehanamore area of Tucker in Cork, 8-year-old Colette Cronin, 9-year-old Alexandra O'Donovan, and 10-year-old Pauline O'Rourke went out picking flowers after school. As they were walking home, flowers in hand, they walked by an old dishevelled house that was known as Trampus House. It was named this because tramps or homeless people would often sleep there. On their way back, there was a man standing in the doorway of this house. And as they passed, he muttered, "Hello." And then, without warning, he ran up and grabbed Colette from behind and dragged her, kicking and screaming and crying for help, into the old abandoned house. He stabbed her 6 times in the stomach with a hunting knife. The 2 other children, scared and in shock, ran for help. Straight away, the murder squad, who we have talked about before and don't always have the greatest regard for, came down from Dublin. As you can imagine, parents were terrified that this innocent 8-year-old seemed to be just randomly murdered. The next day, little Pauline would give a statement about what happened. "We knew we would get flowers by the railway line and at the back of Trampus House. We had gone there 5 or 6 times before, but sometimes Colette did not come. We passed by the fruit factory and there were only a few cars there. We passed Trampus House and we looked into it but did not go in. It was 3:30 p.m. There was nobody in the house. We continued on up to the bridge. We stayed around up there for about half an hour. I said, we will go home now, it will be getting dark soon. When we got to the road, we walked straight down the hill. We could see Trampus House. There was a man standing at the door. He was standing still by the house as we were passing. He was still standing by the house as we were passing. He was in his 30s, about 33. His hair was cut short. It was straight, but his fringe was a bit curly. He had a moustache, but there was not much hair in it. It was all grey. He was skinny and smaller than my dad. My dad is 5'4". He was wearing a dark grey suit. It was clean and sort of new. His hair was a bit untidy and some of it was standing up at the back. He had a few pimples on his left cheek." Just to say, that is a very mature and perceptive description of someone, from someone so young, and then for the shocking thing to happen after. As we were passing, he said hello to us. He spoke with a strange tone. I thought it was English. Colette was about 5 or 10 yards behind us. We looked back and the man put his hands around Colette. He ran into the kitchen and laid her down and knelt next to her. She was lying on her back on the floor. We were looking in the door. The man did not see us as his back was turned to us. Colette kept calling all the time, "Alex, get help." He was holding her 2 knees together and I saw him put his hand into his right hand trouser pocket and take out something. I did not see what he took out. When we saw him do this, we ran away. We ran down to the fruit factory through the field. I saw the man run out the back door of the house and straight through the field at the back. We went into the factory and called the men. We saw one of them lifting Colette out of the house. There was blood on her knees. I never saw the man before. I would know him if I saw him again. 4 days after the murder, a note would be discovered in St. Vincent's Church, Sunday's Well. It was in a white envelope and said "Urgent Garda" on it. I was present at the derelict house at Clane on that terrible day of the murder. I was actually made to kill the little girl by 2 men. Apparently their reason was to frighten me. I am in a state of shock. I am very frightened. Tell the little girl's parents I am heartily sorry. Please make a plea to me. Try to assure me I will be all right if I come in. I need love. This letter was sent to the forensic lab in Dublin, as was any of the evidence that was found at the crime scene. The hunting knife was actually found under the floorboards, and this was also sent to the forensic lab. The postmortem would show that Colette bled to death. People who lived near locally would be questioned, and some of them actually did see this, strange man, and so they were also able to give descriptions. John Courtney, who I've spoken about before, was the lead from the murder squad on this case. And so he thought that it sounded like the person could have been a bit mentally unstable. And so he actually asked for them to check into the records of any outpatients that were in the psychiatric hospital. There were 136 outpatients. Many of these were practically incoherent. It couldn't have been them. Now, it says that one man who was interviewed seemed extremely nervous. And then it says that Courtney orders for them to check, to see if he had any relations in the in the outpatients. So then that would make you think that he wasn't in the outpatients, that he was just someone else that they happened to interview. Either way, it turns out his brother was. They sent Detective Sergeant Paul Downey down to the family home to talk to him. And his mother would say that he wasn't home. Now, the guard then tells them, oh yeah, because we want to talk to him in connection with the murder of the little girl and that we want to fingerprint him. I would just think you're scaring him off. It should have just been oh yeah, no, can you ask him to call us, or we'll be back, or do you know where else we can get him? I feel like telling them that is kind of just giving them too much information, but know what you think? So he called a second time and still he could not get your man. Now, 2 days later, so now 6 days into the investigation, another note was found. This time it was on the footpath of Glendalough Park, and it was shorter. And it was in a blue envelope and it read Garda on the top. It's me again. I told you what happened. It's true. No, I am not Jack the Ripper. I am innocent. The next day, there was another note. And this one was at Ballyleen near Donovan's Road. And again, it was short and it just said, it's me again. I am very sick. Did you catch the two men? That same day, there was a phone call to the Union Quay Garda station, and Garda Michael O'Rourke answered it. And so he was managed to keep him on long enough that they could trace it. And it was actually to a payphone outside UCC, but by the time they got there, he was gone. He told Garda Michael O'Rourke, you know what happened in the woods in Toher? I was there. I was at the scene. I was made to kill her. 2 people made me do it. I had to kill her. They made me do it. That same evening, in the South Infirmary Hospital, a man went up to Nurse Irene Donnelly and told her that he had a pain in his chest. Dr. Lucy went in to examine him, and he would tell him that he was in a state of shock. When the doctor said, why are you shocked? He said, you would be too if you had killed the girl in Toher. So basically at this point, Dr. Lucy attempts to get your man to kind of sit down and relax and stuff, and he whispers or gestures over to the nurse to call the guards. He then went on to tell Dr. Lucy that he had sent these letters to the guards, but they ignored them. He said that if they had found the knife that he had put under the floorboards and tested it for fingerprints, they would know it was him. All of this was said without any prompting, which would obviously be important. Dr. Lucy had asked him if he had ever been in a hospital before, and he mumbled about being in a mental hospital in England. He then talked about the mental hospital in Cork and said that he was afraid that this doctor was going to send him there. The doctor asked his name and he just said Tobin. He wouldn't give a first name. And then, for some reason, the doctor told him that they had called the guards. So obviously he got straight up and leapt and ran. The doctor and the nurse then follow him down Infirmary Road, and a guarded car is passing and they are able to flag it down, and the man is arrested. He would tell the guards his name was Francis Anthony Tobin, and when arrested he asked where they were taking him. They said Bark Street Garda Station, and he said, oh good, not the mental hospital. On the 10th of May, Tobin made a full confession. He admitted that on the day of the murder he had collected his dole and then went and bought a hunting knife from the gun stores on Oliver Plunkett Street for £1. At first he did try to say that, there was 2 men that they made him do it, but eventually he, told the truth. About 2 years ago, I had a nervous breakdown in London because I could not find a place and I had to live out in the open. I came back to Ireland and I was taken against my wishes by 2 psychiatric nurses to St. Anne's Hospital. I kicked up a fuss and they sent for 3 guards. I spent a month in St. Anne's. It was revenge for being taken to the hospital against my wishes that I killed Colette. I feel very sick and weak. The shock is getting me. When I killed her, I got an experience I will never forget. It is terrible when you realise you have taken a life. When I caught her outside the house, I did not have any wrong or depraved feelings. I just felt that I was suffering a lot due to stress and my mind was unbalanced at the time. When I was standing outside the house, I grabbed her because she was the nearest to me. When I stabbed her, I knew that she was seriously injured. I flung the knife under the floorboards. I could never kill again, and I know this emphatically. If I had got assurance from the mental home last week, it would never have happened. I am a normal man. I had a terrible feeling that I would be locked up for the rest of my life, and my mind snapped. I prayed that night that the little girl would live. I have not slept very well since. I burnt the holster for the knife when I got home that night. I am feeling better now that I have told the truth. I could not sleep very well that night. I had nightmares and hallucinations. Tobin was born on the 29th of September 1948 in Cork. He was the youngest of 5 kids, and by the time he was 12, his dad left. He left school at 14 and worked as a spray painter. In 1968, he went to England to work and, set up a life. But 4 years later, he returned to Cork unemployed. So we know that he had attended a mental hospital over in England, and then when he came back, he was in a mental hospital here. And after being released after the month, he was to have like 2 meetings a week basically as an outpatient, and he just never went. Now, that should have also been flagged. He was released at the start of January 1974. When it went to court, it was determined that he was unfit to even plead in the case. He was detained at the Central Mental Hospital in Dundrum. Guys, that's literally it. That's all I could find. I tried to find more information on Colette. I couldn't. I don't even have a little photo of her. It's just a very sad case of such randomness, and even like, it was her purely because she was a bit further behind, and I'm sure that her friends that has stuck with them for their lives. Couldn't find anything more on Tobin. I don't know, would he still be in the mental hospital at this point? He'd be like mid-70s at this stage. So if he's even still alive, or would they have released him then into kind of some sort of care home or something? Don't know. So I'm sorry that it is a short one, but yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your support, for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And stay safe. Take care. Thanks. See you in the next video. Bye.